Welcome to today's Table Talks. My name is Scott Kappelman, and we are so glad that you've joined us for today's topic. As always, I am joined by my two co-hosts. I've got Mr. Clark McGehee over on my right. Clark, how are you?
Well, I'm doing good again. I've had a busy day today, I would say.
I think you're a little bit tired.
I'm a little bit tired, but I've since walked outside some.
Got fresh air.
Yeah, Tyce said I was photosynthesizing outside.
That's good.
So, yeah, I enjoyed it. So I'm feeling better. Excited for this episode a little bit.
Okay. Then on my left, I've got Tyce Lawbinger. Tyce, how are you?
I'm doing really good. I finished some things I needed to get done today, and then I was able to sit outside and read for a while.
So you got a little photosynthesis too.
I did.
That's
a
big word for me. I don't know if I can spell it, so
I probably definitely can't spell it.
I don't know if I need to say it since I can't spell it.
That's
but that's
true,
okay.
Yeah. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good. I'm looking forward to this episode because I like sports.
I do too.
Maybe a little too much. And this is our topic today. We're going to ask the question, should Christian parents put their children in travel sports? And I know there may be some of you watching just now and you're thinking, I'm cutting this off because they're about to get after me. And maybe we will a little bit, but we're going to try to be fair and balanced as always. So we know that there are a lot of you who watch who have small children. Some of them are pretty athletic, and you're in the throes of trying to struggle through, am I going to let my child play travel sports or not? And so today what we'd like to do is kind of give you the pros and cons, but also give you, again, opportunities to think about the long-term effects of those choices. And so we hope you'll stay with us to the end and that we can give you some insights for you and your spouse to think about before you maybe jump into the travel sports scene. All right, so the first thing I think we need to all admit to our audience is that sports are not evil.
They're not.
And there are a couple of passages. I don't know if either one of you have this pulled up, but if one of you would take 1 Corinthians 9:24 through 27, and then 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 8.
I'll take 1 Timothy.
Okay, you got 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 8. Clark, if you'll take 1 Corinthians 9:24 to 27.
Absolutely, I got it right here.
We know that Paul, in his New Testament writings, often compared the Christian faith as we follow Christ to sports, which must have been something that was pretty significant in the first century and something Paul even himself maybe enjoyed watching. So let's see how it does it in 1 Corinthians 9:24 first.
That's right. So Paul says, "Don't you know that the runners in a stadium all race, but only one receives the prize? Run in such a way to win the prize. Now everyone who competes exercises self-control in everything. They do it to receive a perishable crown, but we an imperishable crown. So I do not run like one who runs aimlessly, or box like one beating the air. Instead, I discipline my body and bring it under strict control, so that after preaching to others, I myself will not be qualified."
Which the Corinthian people would have loved this.
They would have.
In Corinth, they had some games very similar to our Olympic Games called the Isthmus Games. I'm not sure if they were every 2 years or every 4 years. I think they were every 4.
I'm not sure.
So this reference would have been right on target with their lifestyle and things that they would have seen on a regular basis. And so I just want to say again, Paul wouldn't have used that as a comparison.
Right. And he even shares about some things that are fairly godly, discipline and self-control. Like sports teaches those kinds of things.
That's right.
That's exactly what Paul's talking about. So
that's right. And then we've got 1 Timothy 4:8 as another verse.
Yeah, so for while bodily training is of some value, godliness is a value in every way, as it holds promise for the present life and the life to come.
Perfect. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
When I was in Israel, one of the things that we got to see before we had to flee the country is we went to a particular community, and I can't remember the name of it. But nonetheless, there was a place, they have a lot of archaeological places in the ground that they show you, and some of the buildings they've even re-erected. And it was a place where it was a gymnasium, and they would work out. And so even in Israel, even though this was written to Timothy and he could have probably been in Ephesus, in Israel there were gymnasiums where people would work out. The only thing that the guide told us, though, is they worked out naked.
Well,
you had to drop your
probably
clothes.
gets pretty hot in there.
In the first room that you came to, everybody laid their clothes down.
that's crazy.
Hey, you know what? If you had to work out naked, I'm sure there'd people that work out far more intensely than what they did now. I mean,
That's a good
Probably
point.
so.
there is a thing about,
Yeah.
like
So-
trying to show off.
It's kind of weird, but anyway. That
It's a little strange.
Yeah, a
Yeah.
little strange for our culture. But
Yeah.
nonetheless,
Yeah, it did happen though. So
that's right. So sports are not evil. That's where we want to
No,
start
they're
if you're
great.
watching. Sports are not evil. So let's now ask the question, did either one of you play travel sports? Tyce, we'll start with you.
Okay, I did. Yeah, I played a lot of travel sports growing up. Actually, I didn't start until I started in middle school, but I broke my arm 3 times in middle school, so ended
Wow.
up never playing travel sports in middle school. But I just played for like the school AAU team, so we would go. They went on summer like tours and played, but I was never able to play in that time.
Because you had the broken
Because I
arm.
had broken arms. But in high school, yeah, I did play. I actually played for the Under Armour circuit. I played in the Nike circuit, and then my senior year, I played for, it wasn't a local AAU team. The guy who ran it was like a trainer. He had trained NBA players before, but he wanted grassroots kids. He didn't want to bring kids in from all over. So.
All right, so pretty positive experience.
Positives and negatives. The circuits were fun. I got a lot of free stuff, which is fantastic. I got to play in front of LeBron James
Wow.
and that. Lots of travel.
you said you dunked on LeBron James?
No, definitely not that. Definitely not that. So like good memories. But I mean, I'm playing with future NBA stars. There are people that I've played with and that were on my team that are in the NBA now, and so. Tyce Lavinger, who went to the NCAA Division II, was not getting much playing time in those, but they were fun, good experiences. And then the next when I played for, it was called 34 Hoops, the more grassroots team. Great memories. Played a ton, but we were not great. We were not a great team. So,
All right.
yep.
Clark?
I did not.
Now, I'm going to include in travel sports things like Lions Band or
Right.
All-State Band, or for some girls, dance competitions, ballet. All of that is inclusive when we talk about travel sports.
Thanks for trying to include me, but
Okay. I was doing my best. I thought maybe because you were in the band, maybe
Yeah.
you were part of an all-state band at some point.
No, I was not. I never took it that seriously. I never wanted to
Okay.
go that bad. But I would also say, at least for my time, which wasn't that long ago there, but where I was from, it wasn't as big of a thing at all. I can name just a couple of people that did travel sports, period, especially looking back now and looking at how many people are there that play travel sports today. And from where I'm from, it's way more than it used to be. So I don't know if it was as popular as it was in maybe like the 2010s. And if it was, then it certainly wasn't where I was from. But
Did the kids you know that played travel sports, did they have to go to Brookhaven, or did they go to Natchez or Macomb?
yeah, I think they played with Natchez usually. It's just some of the bigger cities around.
Okay.
Natchez was the one that I can always remember everybody was on. So.
Okay. I did not play travel sports because at the time when I grew up, there were no travel sports that I was aware of. We had a rec team in our community, and we did travel a circuit. You played for a circuit team, but this is a different circuit.
Yeah.
It was the little communities that were directly around Holka, like Bruce and Calhoun City and Slate Springs. And in the summer, we would travel to each of those communities and have games against their little rec team. But other than that, that's as close as I ever came to playing travel sports. So I don't have a lot of experience in this. All right, here's my next question. Do you think the children, because we know the parents sometimes get more caught up in this than the kids, do you think the kids themselves actually want to play travel sports?
Yes.
You do?
I do. I think it
You
depends.
wanted to play.
I really wanted to play. Yeah. The higher up you go, I think it depends. Like for the Under Armour circuit, there was just a lot of people saying, "Hey, your son's 6'10". Like you need to get him into this. You need to get him into that." And so did I really want to do that? I had fun. I think there was a part of me that did, but it wasn't until I played more for the grassroots team, where like these are people I play against in high school. These are people I see. Like I really wanted to be a part of that. I went to everything I could. If I had to drive myself to a different state, I'd do that just to make sure I could be there. So sometimes yes and no.
Okay.
But I do think, yeah, the children do it because they want to be in it, or at least at the very least, they like the sport.
Clark, you've got a nephew, or maybe more than one nephew, that plays travel sports. Do you sense that your nephews enjoy it and they like it?
Yeah, he does like it.
Okay,
And
it's one.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's one. But when others about to start, but they both want to play. Like they both do really enjoy it. Now, I would be lying if I didn't say I sometimes see parents trying to maybe vicariously live through their kids and say, oh, you've got to go and do this. But I would say it's kind of like Tyce said. It's yes and no. There are a lot of kids that do want to. His name is Braxton, my nephew is, and he just loves just being able to play just in general. He likes to move. He likes to be outside. So he's like, if I get the chance to go and play, I'm going to. So.
Well, that's been my experience in talking to children that have been a part of our church. For the most part, I would say 75, 80% of them, the kids themselves want to play. There have been a few instances where I've had a kid say, I only play because they make me play. Mm-hmm. And that always concerns me, but I was just kind of curious. And I think that's the reason I want to bring this up. If you're watching this and you're a parent, I think the first question you should ask is to go to your child and say, are you sure you want to play? Because it could be, as a parent, you see the potential of the child, but at that stage of life, the child's more interested in putting together Legos than going to play on a travel baseball team in the middle of the summer in the heat.
Right.
So I would just encourage you to ask your child first, do you want to play, if you're even thinking about doing this?
Yeah, that's a good question.
So, all right, what do you think motivates parents to maybe put their kids in travel sports? We'll start with Clark this time.
I'm going to say exactly what we just talked about. I'm going to be very positive here and say it's because the kids want to. They want to get out and they want to play, and the parents love them in that way to say, hey, we want to be able to equip you to do that. So we're going to place you here in this travel ball team and allow you to have that opportunity. I figured Tyce was going to say something probably similar to that.
Yeah,
I think first, I think it just provides a skill development, an extra level. Like, hey, if we're going to do this, we're going to go all in. And so you wanted to play during school sports. Well, now it's off season. Too young to have a job. Don't really want to play another sport. So here you go. Here's more training for you. That might be one reason that they put them in. We can go back and forth if you want to give a point now.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think sometimes, and this is a positive also, the parents have seen positive experiences from other families, and they see how those travel teams actually bond together because they spend time together at practices. They spend time traveling on the weekends, Friday nights, Saturdays, sometimes into Sunday. And there's this close bond that forms between the parents and the children that are on the team. And so I think that sense of community that maybe the parents haven't found and the kid hasn't found in other places is actually found in the travel sport. So that can be a positive.
Yeah.
All right, Clark, you got another one?
I do, and I'm going to use the same one that I just used, but it'd be the negative side of it.
Okay,
Because
reverse it.
I really do think, and I'm going to be honest, this is what I see the most through when I talk to people. Now, when I say this, that does not mean if you know me and you're listening to this and you play travel sports that I'm thinking of you, but I run into a lot of people that play travel sports, right? So I think I see most of the time the kid gets idolized a little bit. It is that, oh man, you really want to go play, so let's do this for you. But the parents can tend to say, hey, you want to do this, so I am going to go all in. I'm going to have that all in attitude. But to the nth degree that I start even sacrificing some of my own convictions about maybe rest or church, and we can get into those conversations, but I'm going to start sacrificing my own convictions to make sure that you are able to do what you want to do.
That's good. Compromise for the good of the child.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll go back to a positive. It gives them different levels of competition, for better or for worse. I know during the public school or during the school choice one, I talked a lot about a bubble. And that's just true with sports. You're going to play in your little bubble of schools that fit in your size. But travel sports opens that door wide open. Like if you play in the upper leagues, you're going to be playing against future MLB, NHL, NBA, NFL stars. But if you play in the lower leagues, then maybe the competition is worse. Maybe you're the best player on that team, and you're just getting reps at that point. So for better or for worse, you're playing new competition.
I'm going to go back to that story I think you told where a kid transferred to your school.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
From Texas.
Yeah,
and he was talking about what a great player he was.
He was top 50 point guard in the state of Texas.
But it was a
homeschool league.
and that I think people do, if you have your kids in travel sports, there are levels to this.
There are different, there's a lot of different levels.
And so if you can be in travel sports that's at a low level, it's still maybe greater competition, to your point, than the rec league in your community, but it may not be the top echelon of rec, because you talked about playing on the circuit. That's That's a top level in
That is,
basketball.
yeah.
Is when you get on the circuit. Nike sponsors, Adidas sponsors one, Reebok sponsors one. And so those circuits are the top level in basketball. Same with baseball or soccer, whatever. So, okay. Here's a negative, and I'm not trying to chastise any parents, but I've struggled with this myself. Sometimes as parents, we want to live the dreams that we never got to achieve through our kids. And so because in my instance, there were no rec leagues in the time period I grew up, and I loved basketball so much, I was really probably more pro Eli trying out for a travel team than he was initially. Now, once he tried out, made the team, got to know the guys, he had a great time and loved it and wanted to go back on his own year after year. But I would say the first time we went, I was more excited than he was because I thought, man, if I could have just been in the 4th grade and trying out for a team, I would have done that.
I mean, that just happened for us here at the office.
Yes, it did, because Tyce, you got an offer recently.
I did. I got a college offer recently, and Pastor Scott said, man, if I was you, I would take it.
Yeah.
But
I mean, you even got offered some NIL money.
I did get some, yep. But
I told you I'd take it.
I know.
I even tried to convince you to take me with you.
You did.
As your partner in
Yeah,
this.
this is all true.
So I'm still trying to live my dream through Tyce. Clark, if you get an offer, I'll limit it through you.
Oh, I'll let you know when I get it. I'll let the whole audience know. We'll start a podcast just for that.
Any other motivations on the parent side?
I guess I do have one, but I think I can fit it in somewhere else. We want to go ahead and go to
Okay,
the next
let's
topic.
move into the next part. What are some myths about travel sports? Because we've talked about why parents may want to put them in, but there are some myths that you kind of have to grapple with. You want to dive in, Clark?
Yeah, I think, Tyce, when does travel ball start? Do you know?
I mean, it could be the day after school sports ends. If
Like for what age?
Well, I mean,
Eli tried out in the 4th grade.
yeah, it can be as early as 3rd, 4th grade. I mean,
Okay.
I'm sure they have like Pee-wee football. I mean, you got preschoolers in those football helmets, which look hilarious. I love those games, but
So what I would say I occasionally see is a little 3rd grader out there playing with Holka people, and not to diss on Holka, but just a very small community, and they're pretty good. This little 3rd grader's pretty good, and they go, he is going pro, no doubt in my mind. He's gone.
He's a superstar.
Yeah, we might as well kiss him goodbye because he is gonna be money maker, never gonna see us again, but it's okay. And I just don't think that is for sure gonna be the truth.
Yeah.
It might be, and hey, I hope so. But some parents get convinced immediately in 3rd grade that, hey, he's a superstar.
He's it.
He's going pro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sign me up.
I have a myth. So I like your myth about that your child is going to get a scholarship. That can happen. I think it happens a lot. There's a lot of exposure, but really colleges care about your high school stats. I mean, because that's where you spend your time. That's where you're not paying to get on that team. Like if you pay enough money, a coach doesn't care about your character. Like they're gonna give you on the team because of money. So like you hear about these great AAU teams full of superstars, and then ultimately when you look at their stats, you only get their high school stats. So there is that. There is a lot of exposure. That is not a myth of travel sports. Like there's coaches that look, there are teams that look at that. You get a lot of exposure, but getting a scholarship probably more depends on what you do at school. Also, most of the time in travel sports, you hear like, "Oh, I've got 36 offers." Well, you can only accept one. So like, what's the matter? You just really you're shooting for one offer, and that's what you need is one good offer. 36 offers of $5,000 are no good because you got to pay for a lot for school. So really, you're gonna get a scholarship. You should get one. Focus on.
I wrote down that one of the myths is my child might miss out on something significant if he or she can't play. Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes we think that there's some special experience a child will have that is greater than the rec sport in the local community. If they get on this travel team, there's just this grand experience they'll never forget. And so, yeah, there are some great experiences. I think you're going to talk about that maybe at some point. But I mean, you can have great experiences in a variety of ways, and it doesn't always have to do with travel sports.
That's true.
So, it makes me think of the same thing with money too. I've heard parents share that whenever their kids get older, and they say, it was this one parent that said, "Do you remember when we went to the zoo?" She was like, "What are you talking about?" And it was they just went to PetSmart, and she told him it was the zoo. And it was like, in the kids' mind, like they were having the best time. So it is funny, but the principle is the best thing you can really give them is just a loving, nurturing home, family, and the rest of it, the Lord can work out. So you're not going to completely ruin their life or something if you don't get to
I think
put them
I've
in
told
travel
this
ball.
on another podcast. I don't know if it was this one or Cappleman Leadership Podcast, but back when our kids were small, they had just opened Barnes & Noble at Mississippi State.
This is funny.
And it has the only escalator in Oktibbeha County.
Oh,
and
yeah.
on Friday nights, we would go to campus and eat at Chick-fil-A in the Union and then go to Barnes & Noble because they were open till 8 and let the kids ride the escalator for an hour just to wear them out.
Yeah.
And they, to this day, talk about that as one of their most exciting experiences from childhood.
That
was
is
riding the
awesome.
escalator.
That's
So,
fantastic.
Same principle.
Right, exactly.
All
That's
right,
awesome.
let's talk about the realities. We've talked about a few myths. Let's get into some realities of travel sports.
Do you want to start with this big one at top, or do you want to end
let
with
me
that?
let me jump into
All right,
that.
we'll start
So
with that.
my first point under this topic of the realities of travel sports is most parents think their child's going to earn that scholarship, going back to the previous myth. But the reality is some parents could actually pay for their child's college using the same amount of money they spend in travel sports.
Pascal, when you told me that a few days ago, I just looked at you like you were crazy.
You did.
I was like, "There's no way. That's just not true. Like a scholarship is so valuable." And then I started to think about it, and you wrote these numbers. I didn't even look at these numbers, but I started thinking about it. If I would have played in the circuits from not just my sophomore and junior year of high school, like if I would have played from middle school on, the amount of money that was, I mean, it would have paid for at least 2 years of college just to get in through the circuits, not travel, not my parents' travel, not the gear. Now, most of the gear was gifted
Give it
to
to
us.
you. Yeah.
So, but
Well,
I mean, it's pretty close.
I've got this article that I'm quoting from in our notes. In 2022, there was an article written about how much parents spend on sports, but this is not really travel sports. This is just a recreational sport in your community.
Mm-hmm.
And so the average cost per child per sport is $833. And that included things like, if, for example, basketball, you'd buy the shoes, you'd pay the registration fee, you might have to pay some entry fees on a few tournaments you played locally. You're going to send your kid to a summer camp in your community. And so $833 per year per sport. This was really not travel sports. It was just kind of in general, this is what you're going to spend on a sport.
That is true because, I mean, I've gone to these travel sports things and, like, my parents have paid a lot for it. And first off, thank you, Mom and Dad, for paying for me to go to this. Because as I think about it, like, not only did they pay for it, but then they drive an hour to St. Louis, which is our only closest games. And they pay $25 to get into the game. So that's $50 for 2 of them. And, I mean, that adds up quick.
Well, Eli started in 4th grade. He stopped after the 9th grade because he didn't make the team at Starkville High, and so it was time to move on to something else. So that 5 years, there's no doubt in my mind we spent anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 for the different parts of the experience, and that would have paid for community college probably for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the reality is you can actually save your money if you don't do travel sports, and you can still pay for college at some level.
Yeah.
So that's one reality. Okay, others y'all want to talk about?
I'm going to say, and this is coming from somebody who never did travel sports, so it is coming from a little bit of a place of ignorance, but I'm afraid that you can occasionally devalue or diminish the importance of the church body and just church in general, going to worship. And I want to have Hebrews 10:25 here, and it says, well, I'll read 24 as well. And let us consider one another in order to provoke love and good works, not neglecting to gather together, as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging each other, all the more until you see the day approaching. So we see this in Hebrews 10:25 that says, don't neglect the worship. So I think that's my encouragement here for parents. Ultimately, this is going to be between you and God. I really am not here to cast judgment because I'm not even speaking to anybody in front of me. We're just doing a podcast. So I have no judgment cast for anybody, but I want to encourage the listener to ask God, like where is my heart in this matter? Am I devaluing the importance of corporate body worship? Because I think that it really can be a fear. And my big question for you might be is, if anybody's listening and they have kids in travel ball, is why does church get the boot more often than maybe travel ball does? because it's, I'll leave it at that. But
Well, and that goes with the verse that I wanted to read, Exodus 20, verse 3, do not have other gods besides me. And I do agree that I think when it comes to travel ball, most of the parents I know will not ever miss hardly any practices, because in travel ball, if you miss practice, sometimes you don't get the playing time in the next event, game, whatever. But then when it comes to the weekends the team is committed to go, those parents are going to go regardless of how much it costs, where the travel is, the hotel expense that are going to be incurred. But if we have some event at the church, and it's not even a paid event, it might just be some kind of spiritual emphasis for our children or our youth. We have parents all the time who say, well, hey, they just can't come this weekend. But they would never say that to the travel ball coach.
Mm-hmm.
So in that case, it does raise the question, has it become an idol? And it's more important to you than your worship and faithfulness to God.
Right.
And again, I'm not trying to castigate anybody. These are just the realities of where this is.
And on the same note, for all three of us, we're pastors. We're not saying this because we want the numbers up. We're not saying this because we want people to be in service so we can feel better about ourselves, because that would be an idol, right? But we really are just bringing the question forward and saying, take it up with the Lord and pray about it. Seek Him and His face in that, because I don't want somebody to be listening and say, well, of course these guys are going to say that, they're pastors.
Well, and I want to admit to those who are watching or listening, Eli played travel ball for 5 years, and then Clancy did competitive dance for 3. And in both cases, they missed some Sundays. I missed a few Sundays going with them, and it was a struggle at our house to talk through these issues and try to figure out where we stood on them.
Yeah, because the reality is too, like, for the not so bad side of this is you've paid for it. So now, how are you going to steward what you've done?
That's correct.
Now, are you just going to, I don't know how other sports are, but AAU basketball, it's called Championship Sunday. Like, you play the weekend so you can play on Sunday. And so now, are you being a bad steward, not just to your money, but to your team that you've committed to miss a Sunday after you've poured in the money and you've poured in the effort on Friday and Saturday to get there? Yeah. And so that is something you do have to work through.
Yeah. There's all these things that you've got to work through, and it's very individualistic, I would say.
It's a complicated issue, to be real honest. It's just very complicated.
Yeah.
And we're just trying to help you think through all the facets of it, especially if you've not made the commitment. At least give some forethought to, this is a larger commitment than maybe I realize. And if you're in the throes of it, how far will you go, and what steps do you need to take to be faithful to the team, but also be faithful in your walk with God?
Yeah.
This will be the last that I offer on this subject, and this is a little bit more of an encouragement, which is going to be our next question. But I do know one parent, if you're listening, you say, well, I just don't know how it's fathomable. I don't even know how it would work. I have a parent that I know who has told me that, yeah, my kids are in travel sports, but we communicate clearly to the whole team, talking about disappointing the team. We communicate clearly to the whole team that Sundays we're not going to come. He said, I'm sorry if that messes things up, but we're just not going to be there on Sunday. And he says that he gets a little bit of slack from his kids about it, but he explained to them why. And he said, this is why we're doing this. And he said, for the most part, they understand and they work with it. So, and that's his personal conviction as a parent. So it might not be the person listening, but
I know a pastor my age. He lived in a metropolitan area growing up versus where I grew up in Holka, which is in the sticks. But he had the chance to play travel sports back in our time period. And his parents had the same rule. We'll play all weekend. We'll play even into Saturday night. But on Sunday, we're going to withdraw if the team advances and somebody else can, play in his place. Now, I don't know, as a person on the team, how you would feel about that.
Well, I'm going to be
honest,
there were a few Sundays that I didn't miss the tournament, but here's the issue. Like I said, my senior year, we were not a good team. So most of the time we wouldn't make it to Sundays.
Yeah. So if the team's not good, you're not going to make it.
So the Sundays that we did go, I was there, and there was a few Sundays where, they had a 6 a.m. game, and there was a team that, hey, we need someone. We don't have anyone. And so I knew I had a 8 a.m. game with my team, and then I played a 6 a.m. game with the other team on Sundays. And that's just, that's how it was. But my parents were like, okay, you're going to miss this, but you better get home for Sunday night church. That's non-negotiable. There's nothing going on Sunday night. AU's done by 3:30. So, if you have a 5-hour drive, get home.
Right.
Do whatever you got to do. But if you're going to miss Sunday morning, you're going to be at Sunday night. So,
And that's another thing. Maybe we should just stress communication to the kids. Communicate to them that church is important. That if you do have to miss for a Sunday, say, hey, this is really something that kind of bums us out, and we're gonna try to make this not a commonplace. If that's your conviction. But.
Okay.
I know we're about to run out of time. Let's get to some encouragements that you want to share before we wrap up with this particular episode. So, Tyce.
Yeah, so first encouragement to a parent that's considering it is sometimes this is your child's opportunity to play sport. I know high school sports are political as they can get out. Like, parents that pay the most into the schools typically are the kids that get to play. Sometimes there is a lot of skill involved. Like, I don't want to say it's all political, but they are very political. And sometimes your kid could be good and they just don't get to play in the school sport. So this is an opportunity for your kid to get some experience in the sport. And that's great for them. If you want your kid to be able to experience sports, and not because of anything extreme like we talked about earlier, but just the opportunity to get to play a sport as a kid, because you don't get to play recreation sports as an adult, really, that have great purpose behind it. So this is an opportunity for you to potentially do that with your kid.
I would just offer the encouragement. I know Chris Driscoll was heavily involved in the local soccer association when his kids were coming through, and Mary and Sean both played and were very good at it. But Chris, when we had the local Starkville tournament every year, I think it was called the Frostbite Soccer Tournament, he would organize a Sunday morning worship at 8 o'clock at the pavilion where the games were being played, and he got the word out to all the teams, all the coaches, and the parents as they were registering that we'll have this worship. And usually he had our worship team, a couple of those guys that played guitars and like a vocalist, and then I would share devotion. It lasted no more than about 25 minutes, but any parents or teams that would like to come would do that. And we'd usually have anywhere from 25 to 40 people that would show up. And I thought that was kind of a great way to maybe bridge the gap for the weekend, especially when you got to Sunday, is to offer a worship. Mm-hmm. But you kind of have to be a tournament organizer to do something like that.
Right.
You got a thought?
I think I shared the encouragements that I wanted to share there. So.
I have another one. Find a team that has your child's best interest at heart. That is the reason I switched to the grassroots team. Just the circuits are really, we're here to win and get you exposed. But it was when I switched teams, like the coach knew that I was a Christian, knew his pastor's kid, and he attended church. Obviously, we still had stuff on Sundays, but he gave me my space and my time, made sure, like, if we played Sunday, like, Tyce has his time to do whatever he needs to do first. And then if you're also looking at a team, find a coach or a team that's going to prioritize what your kid needs. If they need skill development, find a team that's going to practice more than once a week. And that's just going to practice at a park to run through 3 or 4 plays, so that way you have something. Like, find a team that's really going to work on skill development. Or if your child just needs game exposure because they're not getting game exposure, find a team that's going to play 5 or 6 times. Not every week. You're going to wear your child out. Their bones are still developing. Like, you're going to kill your child's ligaments. But find a team that will get your kid what they need, either skill development, game exposure, and then that they put their spiritual need first.
My final encouragement, and we've had this happen at least twice, maybe 3 times at Cross Point, is when we've had local kid baseball tournaments. We've got a big one coming up, I think, next weekend. 70 teams are coming to Starkville to play at Cornerstone. There's a team out of, I don't know if it's Philadelphia, somewhere in that area, and every year their team comes up here, and if they don't play on Sunday morning, they come to Cross Point.
Really?
The whole team. The coach kind of mandates that they come to the worship with their families. And so they might have a game at 12, but they'll come to Cross Point worship. They'll be in their uniforms. Sometimes they're dirty because they played a game early that morning. And they just participate in worship, and then they hit the road and head to the park. So that's another option that you could do, is whatever community you're in, as you participate, you could choose a church and encourage the families to go and worship in that way. So,
or to organize that time on your own. I like that.
Yeah,
I
you could
just
organize
that point.
on your own. Have a hotel worship in a lobby area or something. So there's some ways to do it. All right, well, we've given you some more food for thought. Again, we've tried to play the devil's advocate on both sides, and we hope this has been helpful. We don't have answers for what you should do. We hope you'll make the best choice for your family, but please, as you're thinking through these issues, don't compromise your opportunity to spiritually develop your child just for the sake of a game or a ballet or a dance competition. Make sure that your child's spiritual development is still a priority,
Yep.
as much so, if not more, than these other things that sometimes we pursue. All right. I hope you have a great day and come back and join us for the next Table Talks.